Okay, so you want to buy the moon. Pick a plot, get the certificate, hang it on the wall. But here's the strange part. There are people who genuinely believe they own a piece of the moon right now. Millions of them, holding official, looking deeds with their names printed on top. And every single one of those documents is worth exactly nothing. The moon might be the only asset on Earth that has been sold to millions of people and legally owned by none of them. Anyway, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why that is. Why the moon can't be bought at any price. Why that hasn't stopped anyone from selling it. What it would actually cost to own a piece of the sky for real. And why the moon isn't really the asset most people think it is. Let's start with the fantasy, because the fantasy is genuinely good. The moon is not an empty rock. Buried in the regolith, the gray dust covering the whole surface, is helium-3, an isotope that's almost non-existent on Earth and could, in theory, fuel fusion reactors that don't exist yet. There are rare earth metals, the same ones inside every phone and electric car. There's titanium, there's iron. And at the lunar poles, sitting in craters that never see sunlight, there's water ice. In space, water isn't just water. Split it apart, and it's breathable oxygen and rocket fuel. Which means whoever controls the ice at the lunar South Pole controls the only gas station between here and Mars. So, on paper, the moon is a 400 billion parking lot with a fuel depot on it. Now let's talk about why you will never own a single square inch of it. The first cost isn't money. It's a treaty. In 1967, at the height of the space race, nearly every country on Earth signed the Outer Space Treaty. And it says something very simple and very inconvenient. No nation can claim the moon, not by planting a flag, not by landing on it, not by using it. The moon belongs to no one, which sounds poetic until you follow the logic. If no country can own the moon, then no country can sell you a piece of it. And if no country can sell it, then no title to lunar land is worth the paper it's printed on. You can't buy what nobody is allowed to sell. Which brings us to the man who sold you your certificate. Since the 1980s, a handful of companies have made a business out of selling lunar acres for $20 or $30 a plot. Their entire legal argument is that the treaty says nations can't claim the moon. But it doesn't say individuals can't. It's a clever little loophole, and it's completely worthless because there is no court, no registry, and no government anywhere on Earth that will enforce that deed. You didn't buy the moon. You bought a very nice piece of paper and the story that goes with it. And honestly, for $25, that might be a fair trade. But it is not real estate. Okay, so let's say the treaty didn't exist. Let's say you could legally own your plot. Now you have the second problem, and this is the one that actually ends the dream. You have to get there. This is where the numbers stop being funny. Getting a kilogram of anything to the surface of the moon is one of the most expensive things a human being can do. SpaceX, the cheapest operator in the business, prices lunar cargo at around $100 million per metric ton. That's roughly $100,000 for every single kilogram you land on the surface. A 1-liter bottle of water weighs a kilogram. Landing it on your lunar plot costs $100,000. A modest HAB module, a few tons of equipment, one crew. You're spending more to visit your property than most people spend on a house per trip forever. And that's the optimistic number. That assumes fully reusable rockets that mostly don't exist yet. The old way, the government way, is worse. NASA's space launch system costs around $5 billion per launch. The math of lunar ownership isn't a mortgage. It's a bonfire you have to keep feeding, where the fuel is cash and the fire never goes out. Now suppose you got there. Suppose you're standing on your plot. Here's the part the brochure left out. The moon is actively trying to kill everything you bring to it. Start with the dust. Lunar regolith isn't soft sand. It's microscopic glass shards, never weathered, never rounded, because there's no wind and no water to smooth them. It gets into everything. Seals, joints, lungs, spacesuits. During Apollo, it destroyed equipment in days, and the astronauts breathed enough of it to complain their throats burned. Then there's the temperature. A lunar day lasts about 14 Earth days, and so does the night. In the sun, the surface hits 120 degrees C. In the dark, it drops to minus 170. Every machine you own has to survive both, over and over, forever. Then there's what the moon doesn't have: no atmosphere, which means no protection from radiation, so anything living needs to be buried or shielded. No protection from micrometeorites, tiny rocks moving faster than bullets that hit the surface constantly. And no air, no water, no spare parts. Every bolt, every breath, every drop has to be flown up from Earth at $100,000 a kilogram, or manufactured on-site with machines you also had to fly up at $100,000 a kilogram. On Earth, maintenance is a cost. On the moon, maintenance is the entire business, and it never stops. And then we get to the part I actually care about. Who insures this? Because here's the thing about owning something on the moon. If it goes wrong, there is no one to call. There's no lunar law. There are no lunar courts. If your mining rig malfunctions and throws debris into a Chinese lander 2 kilometers away, whose law applies? Nobody knows. If your crew is hurt, there's no lunar hospital, no lunar 911, no rescue that can arrive in less than several days and several $100 million. The Outer Space Treaty makes your home country liable for whatever your spacecraft does up there, which means the one thing you can reliably own on the moon is the legal responsibility for everything that goes wrong on it. You don't get to own the asset, you only get to own the liability. So with all of that, the Void Treaty, the impossible transport, the murderous environment, the total absence of law, why does anyone still talk about the moon like it's a place you can invest in? Because there's a version of this that's real. You just have to stop trying to buy dirt. You can't own lunar land. But under newer agreements, the Artemis Accords, signed by a growing list of countries, you may be able to own what you extract. Not the ground, but the ice. You mine, the metal you dig, the helium-3 you refine. It's the same logic as fishing in international waters. You don't own the ocean. You own the fish you catch. Real companies are already building landers and mining prototypes on exactly this bet, that the moon's value was never the real estate. It was always the stuff you could haul off it. The smart money isn't buying the moon. It's buying the equipment to take pieces of it home. So step back and look at the whole thing, because the economics here are genuinely strange. The moon is simultaneously the most valuable and the most worthless asset in existence. Worthless because you cannot own it, cannot sell it, cannot get a court anywhere to defend your claim to it, and priceless because everything on it, the ice, the metals, the position, is worth a fortune to whoever can physically reach it and haul it away. The value was never in the deed. There is no deed. The value is entirely in the capability. On the moon, ownership is meaningless and access is everything, which is the exact opposite of how every asset on Earth works. So let's answer the actual question. What does it cost to own the moon? In the only 2 ways that are real. Option 1, the certificate. $25. You get a printed deed, a set of coordinates, and a conversation piece. What you don't get is a single legal right of any kind. Payback, immediate if you just wanted the story. Resale value, 0. It is the cheapest lesson in space law money can buy. Option 2, the real thing. You want to actually reach a piece of the moon and take something off it. Now you're looking at a lander, a launch, and an extraction system, even riding the cheapest rockets in history. A single small robotic mission to the lunar surface runs well into the hundreds of millions of dollars, and a serious crewed operation crosses into the billions. Payback, unknown, because the industry that would buy your lunar ice or your helium-3 largely doesn't exist yet. You wouldn't be buying an asset. You'd be buying a bet that the entire off-world economy shows up before your money runs out. So if you do decide to buy the moon, Remember the one rule this whole business runs on. Nobody owns the moon. They never will. The only thing you can own up there is the machine that reaches it first, and the bill that comes with it. Everything else is a certificate on a wall.